Hello, this is Colleen with Designs of Value Art School, and today we're going to go ahead and paint this rosebud and then a small little bud over here and some leaves. It's going to be a dark green background, and the first set of colors that we're going to talk about, and these are all Castell colors, the lemon, is going to be lemon yellow and yellow dark, Castell yellow dark. And then the next value will be lemon yellow and quinacridone gold. And then the darkest value will be Castell red and Castell yellow dark. And then the pink colors that we've got as accents on here is going to be opera rose. And we can lighten that to make a lighter value if we need to. Okay, so and you'll get a copy of this, you'll get a copy of the design, and then the paper that we are using today, we're using all Castell paints, which has got the honey in it, but the paper that we're using is 100% cotton, Fabriano. This is actually rough. This is a watercolor block, so I did not need to stretch it at all. And I've got the colors mixed. So what I'm going to do, and I'm using the Windsor & Newton blending and glazing medium, which I really enjoy using. Makes my open time on the paper longer so I can play with the colors if need be. And I always use a different special brush just for adding water, and that way I don't have any color in it. I always make sure it's a different color. The brushes that I normally use are kind of a burgundy, and they are the Princeton Velvet Touch watercolor brushes. So then this water brush is black, so I can tell that this is my water brush. I do try to keep it separate from my other brushes, and in hopes that I will not put it in the paint. I do every now and again, unfortunately. But, so what we're going to start with today then is the inside bud, all the way down there, and we're going to include that as well. And we'll just do a wet into wet technique. So I'm really happy we got the blending and glazing medium. That works really well. Okay. And you want to apply your water just as carefully, if not more carefully, as you would your paint. Because where you, especially when you're doing wet on wet, where you put your water is where your paint is going to flow. It's going to follow that water on your paper. So if I accidentally drop water over here, I'd want to pick it up immediately. Just want to watch real carefully where you apply your water. So I've got that inside bud coated with water right where I want it, and I'm going to let that set up for a minute. And then we'll add our second glaze, just to make sure it's nice and wet. Got a little fuzz in there, and I'm just trying to pick it out. There we go, I think I got it. Maybe not there, I think I did. Alright, so let's go ahead and add the next glaze of water. Pick up my number 6, cleaning it, and now I'm going to add a little bit of water to our mix. I always like to make sure I don't have any drips on my ferrule as well. Now this is where we're going to just lay the paint brush down and let the water do its job for us. We do want to make sure it goes right up to the corners or the edge. So we've got the light value in there, but now I want to take my second, or medium value I should say, which is the Cendler Red and the Yellow Dark, and we're going to add in some of these darker areas. Right up here is a darker area, so we're going to apply it there. Now by me adding this on top of the yellow, it will lighten it, and that's not that big a deal here. There is a area right there that's darker, and right down in here it's darker because it comes down. Now it's still wet, which is perfect for what I want to do. It's a little bit of a highlight, and what I'm doing is, and what you need to do is what I would call dry wiping your brush. You don't want it to be completely dry, but you do want it to be drier than the paper. See how that paint just picked right up with that dry brush? It's just kind of picking it up like a sponge. And I just want this highlight to show up here and actually around here. But you want to wipe your brush off in between, otherwise the paint you just picked up is going to reapply to the paper. And you don't want that if you can help it. And I'm just wishing my brush back and forth. It's drier than my paper, it's drier than my paint, and I'm just picking up that color. So I think we're heading in the right direction that way with those highlights in there. Okay, now I don't want to do a petal that's close to these because it could flow into each other, and I don't want to see that happen. So I think what we'll do is we'll go up here and we're going to do this petal. Now this petal is going in the background, so it's not up close to the center of interest, which I would say is right here. And don't forget, center of interest is not one item, it's an area. Okay, so I would say it's this area of this rose. So this one is going away, and it's not the center of interest. So we're going to glaze it first. It's always fun to try new things, so this is kind of exciting. I'd always heard really great things about this paper. And I've seen other artists use, you always want to look at the side of your paper and make sure your petal that you're adding water to is covered. Looks like it is. I've always seen and heard good things about Fabriano, so I wanted to try them. I've seen other artists use the rough, so I guess it's time to try that too. Move that water to the outside edge. There we go. Now it looks like we've got mid value in this area, and then it goes up to the pink, which will be fun. We can try that this time too. Just going to add a touch of water to I just cleaned out my brush and picked up the Opera Rose, added a little bit of water to it. And it's right on this corner. Well, that's going to be the perfect color for these pink highlights. Gonna let these kind of meld together here. Now this one doesn't really have any highlights to remove, so we're okay there. We'll let that set up for a second, and then I'm going to add just a little bit more pink all by itself in that upper left hand side once the water is soaked in a little bit, to load my brush. It's better getting a darker color, which is exactly what I wanted. And you always want to take a look at your photograph and make sure you're doing it right. It looks like I am. So we're good there. Alright. Now I could dry this right now. However, I want you to be aware, with this being as wet as this paint is still, if I dried it with a hair dryer, it could blow that paint around. So you always want to make sure that some of your color and water has blended into the paper enough that it's not going to just spread. I'm going to just turn this a little bit so I can get at it a little bit easier, but that you can still see me, and it looks like you can. And again, looking at the side, making sure the petal is completely covered with water where I want it to be. And bringing it right up to the edge. And a lot of little nooks and crannies over here to go in and out. Okay, let that soak up for a moment, settle in. So we're going to pick up the mid value first and do that right up against here. And now I'm going to clean my brush and go to our light value. Needs a little more water. And then I'm going to clean my brush one more time. Picking up the Opera Rose. Now the darkest area here is right in this area, so I'm going to put this down first. And then we've got some over here. It's going to blend in with the yellow. Right to that outside edge. Let the water do its thing. We need to get some yellow in that other corner there. So I'm going to go back to the mid value. And again, we're going to let this do its thing. I did add a little bit more pink here just because I felt it really needed it. So let's go, and we're going to go right to this petal here. It wraps around that section of the front petal. So we'll put our water in there. Okay, so the first layer is starting to soak in. So let's put the second layer right down the middle. And bring it right out to the edge of the petal. Okay, that looks good. Now, this is darker down in here, and then it does come out to a little bit lighter. I don't think it's quite as light as the light value, so we'll do a combination of the two. And then right at the tip is the pink. Just adding a little bit of water to my paint, so it moves a little bit easier when I need it to. Making sure it goes right to the edge. There we go. Now I'm going to clean my brush. Add some water to my Opera Rose. So this is not a real pink area, but it's definitely got some pink in it. About like that. You want to give as many values as you can to your petals, because values create form. Otherwise your petals will be flat, and you don't want that. Kind of blending it up into the yellow there. Okay, that looks good. Now it's separated itself from that front petal, which is exactly what I was hoping it would do. And add the water. You always want to do what I just did, and that is mix your colors first and then add your water. So you don't want to get your water down and have to mix all your colors, because then you're taking a chance that your water is dry by the time you get back to that petal. Okay, so we've got first layer of water down. Let that set up for a moment. Lay your color in where you want it to be the darkest. because when you drop your paint in, the brush is loaded the most at that point. So it's important to put your brush where you want the most color of that value to be. Well, there is going to be this color underneath that pink, so I'm going to put that there. Alright, now cleaning my brush and picking up my lighter value. For across the middle here. And these colors should blend together pretty well. They're pretty similar in value, which is a good thing. The closer your values are, the more realistic your items are going to look as well. Making sure it goes right up to that petal's edge. I got a bit of a puddle down here, so I'm going to pick that up and spread it out. Make sure my petal is covered down here, or up here I should say. Okay, now we need to add just a little bit more dark right in here. Or mid-value, I should say. Alright, now we're going to pick up our opera rose. That goes right in here. Not too bad. Alright, I'm going to dry that. You know what, I am going to add some of this darker value right here at the base, so I think it's going to need it. Picture almost looks gray there, but no, not a shadow or anything, so we're just going to use the darker value, a little bit of the red in it, and some of that, well, I think we're going to leave that like it is and let that settle in. Could actually bring that up a little bit higher too. Comes up a ways. And I see a bubble on of water on my ferrule, so I just wiped it off so it won't drip onto my painting as I paint. Alright, there we go. I'm going to let that dry. I'll take my hairdryer to it, and I will be right back with you.